The grand hall of the Imperial Council glittered with golden light, its crystal walls reflecting the worried faces of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. High Commander Reed of the Galactic Empire stood before the massive holographic display, his usually confident posture now stiff with concern. "Play the message again," he ordered, his voice echoing through the chamber. The hologram flickered to life, showing a human figure dressed in a dark blue uniform adorned with silver stars. Admiral Gray of Earth's United Defense Force stood tall, his weathered face bearing the marks of someone who had seen too many battles. To the Galactic Empire, Gray's voice was calm but carried an edge of steel. "We have detected your scout ships at the edges of our space. We know you're watching us. Before you make any decisions, we want you to see something." The message shifted, showing scenes that made several council members gasp. Tanks rolling across vast battlefields, ships exploding in ocean warfare, aircraft dropping bombs that turned cities to ash, soldiers fighting house to house, street by street, nuclear explosions lighting up skies. Each image was more brutal than the last. "These are not current events," Gray continued as the footage played. "These are our memories. This is how we fought ourselves before we reached the stars. This is what we learned to do when we only had our planet to fight over." The council chamber remained silent as they watched centuries of human warfare flash before their eyes. Modern battles appeared next, orbital defense platforms, space fighters engaging in lightning-fast combat, and kinetic bombardment weapons turning small moons to dust. "We do not want war." Gray's voice carried no hint of fear. "We have enough scars from our own battles. But if you force us to fight, remember, everything you've just seen was us fighting ourselves. Imagine what we'll do to an outside threat." The message ended with 3 simple words floating in the air: "Leave us be." High Commander Reed waved his hand, dissolving the hologram. "Thoughts, council members." General Pike, the Empire's most decorated military leader, laughed. "Primitive scare tactics. They show us footage of their barbaric past and expect us to run. We have mastered faster than light travel for 10,000 years. Our smallest scout ship could destroy their largest vessels." "I disagree," said Dr. Wells, the head of Imperial Intelligence. She stepped forward, her steps echoing in the chamber. "Look at their rate of advancement. From primitive projectile weapons to space warfare in less than 3 centuries. Most species take thousands of years to make such progress. They're violent," another council member added. "Unstable. A threat to imperial peace." Reed raised his hand for silence. "The question before us is simple. Do we heed their warning, or do we bring them under imperial control?" The council erupted in debate. Some argued for immediate military action, others for careful observation, and a few for respecting the humans' wish to be left alone. Reed studied the frozen image of Admiral Gray. Something in the human's eyes bothered him. Not fear, not anger, but almost pity. "The Empire has stood for 50,000 years. Reed finally spoke, silencing the council. "We have incorporated thousands of species into our peaceful rule. These humans, barely out of their gravity well, dare to threaten us. Their arrogance cannot go unchallenged." He straightened his uniform and made his decision. "Prepare the 7th Fleet. We will give these humans a chance to join us peacefully. If they refuse, we will show them what real power looks like." Dr. Wells stepped forward one last time. "High Commander, remember that the most dangerous animal is not the largest or strongest, but the one that has learned to survive against all odds. These humans, they've been fighting their entire history." Reed dismissed her concerns with a wave. "And we have been winning wars since before their species learned to make fire. Send the order. Let's show these humans how insignificant their fighting skills are against the full might of the Empire." As the council members filed out, Dr. Wells lingered, watching the last frame of the human message. The words, "Leave us be," still floated in the air, not a plea, but a warning. She couldn't shake the feeling that the Empire was about to make a terrible mistake. In the vast darkness of space, Earth's defense fleet waited, their crews ready, their weapons primed. They had given their warning. Now they would prepare for war. The Imperial fleet emerged from hyperspace near Mars, their silver ships gleaming in the red planet's light. 50 warships, each larger than Earth's biggest cities, moved into formation. At their head, the flagship Imperial Dawn carried Fleet Commander Stone, who viewed the scattered human defense ships with amusement. Only 20 vessels. Stone smiled at his bridge crew. It seems the humans' fierce reputation is nothing but empty words. The human fleet held position in Mars orbit, their dark hulls nearly invisible against space. The ships looked crude compared to Imperial vessels. No elegant curves or gleaming surfaces, just angular shapes bristling with what appeared to be primitive weaponry. Commander James stood on the bridge of Earth's lead ship Defender, studying the Imperial fleet's formation. Unlike the ornate uniforms of Imperial officers, he wore a simple black combat suit, ready for anything. "Their shields are up," his sensor officer reported, "but they're not charging weapons." James nodded. "Then maybe we can still prevent this war." He pressed a button on his chair. "All ships, hold position. Remember your training. No matter what happens, don't fire unless I give the order." The Imperial flagship sent a communication request. James accepted, and a hologram appeared on his bridge. Fleet Commander Stone's image looked down at the humans with barely hidden disdain. "In the name of the Galactic Empire," Stone announced, "I offer you one chance to surrender and join our peaceful civilization. Resist, and we will be forced to demonstrate our power." James stood tall. "We received no response to our warning message. Yet here you are, bringing the war fleet into our home system. We don't want conflict, but we're ready for it. I suggest you leave while you can." Stone's face hardened. "You dare threaten me? Perhaps a small demonstration will change your attitude." He turned to his weapons officer. "Target their smallest ship. Low power, just enough to disable it." "Sir," his second-in-command whispered, "shouldn't we follow first contact protocols?" "These primitives need to learn their place," Stone replied. James saw the Imperial flagship's weapon ports open. His hands gripped his chair's armrests. "Last warning, Commander Stone. Power down your weapons." The Imperial beam lashed out, aiming for a small human corvette. But instead of the expected disabled ship, the beam passed through empty space. The human vessel had moved with startling speed, revealing the hidden truth. Human ships were far more agile than they appeared. "Interesting," Stone muttered. "Target their command ship. Full power this time." James opened a channel to all ships. "They've made their choice. Initiate Protocol Dark Waters." Before Stone could fire again, the human fleet scattered in what looked like panic. He laughed at their apparent retreat until his sensor officer shouted in alarm. "Multiple signatures appearing behind us." Hidden behind Mars, powered down to avoid detection, waited Earth's true first line of defense. 30 more ships emerged, catching the Imperial fleet in a perfect crossfire. Stone realized too late that the first human formation had been a decoy. Raised full shields. Returned fire. But the humans didn't fire energy weapons that shields could deflect. Instead, they launched swarms of crude missiles, simple metal shells surrounding nuclear warheads. The Imperial fleet's energy shields, designed to stop plasma and laser fire, proved useless against physical objects moving at relativistic speeds. The first wave of kinetic strikes hammered the Imperial ships. 3 exploded immediately, their elegant hulls torn apart by weapons they'd considered too primitive to be a threat. Impossible. Stone watched in horror as his perfectly arranged formation descended into chaos. "They're savages, using nuclear weapons in space combat." James opened one final communication channel. "We warned you. We showed you our history. You should have listened." The battle lasted less than 10 minutes. When it ended, 12 Imperial ships had been destroyed, and 15 more were badly damaged. The remaining vessels retreated in panic, jumping to hyperspace without any semblance of order. In his burning flagship, Stone stared at the casualty reports in disbelief. A third of his fleet, gone. Defeated by weapons that his people had abandoned thousands of years ago. On the Defender, James sent a message to Earth Command. First contact has failed. The Empire chose war. God help them. As Mars rotated slowly below them, the human fleet regrouped, preparing for what they knew would come next. The Empire would return, stronger this time. But humanity had shown they were ready. The real war was about to begin. High Commander Reed stood in the Imperial Palace's war room, his face pale as he watched the battle recordings for the 20th time. Around him, the Empire's top military leaders sat in stunned silence. "Show me the casualty numbers again," he ordered. A hologram appeared, displaying the devastating statistics from the past month of conflict. Imperial ships lost, 156. Human ships destroyed, 23. Imperial crew casualties, 48,000. Human casualties, 890. "Impossible," General Pike whispered, his earlier confidence gone. "We outnumber them 4-1. Our technology is centuries ahead of theirs. How are they doing this?" Dr. Wells stepped forward, pointing to a new recording. "Watch this battle closely. See how the humans fight." The hologram showed an Imperial battle group attacking a human mining colony. As the Imperial ships moved in perfect formation, small human vessels appeared from behind asteroids and debris. They struck fast, fired their primitive but deadly weapons, and vanished again. "They're fighting like animals," Pike said with disgust. "No," Wells corrected him. "They're fighting like humans. Look at their tactics. They never fight fair, never meet us in open battle. They use stealth, ambush, and terrain to their advantage." A new alert flashed across the war room's screens. Another Imperial fleet had been ambushed near Jupiter. The humans had hidden ships inside the gas giant's storms, waiting for days. When the Imperial fleet passed by, they burst out of the clouds, their nuclear torpedoes and railguns tearing through the Empire's finest ships. "Their weapons are so basic," one admiral complained. "They're still using explosives and metal projectiles." "That's exactly why we're losing," Wells explained. "Our shields are designed to stop energy weapons, lasers, plasma, ion beams. But the humans? They shoot chunks of metal at near-light speed. They detonate nuclear devices against our hulls. Our shields can't stop physical objects moving that fast." Reed slammed his fist on the table. "Then we adapt. We're the Empire. We've ruled space for 50,000 years." "Sir," a young officer interrupted, bringing up a new report. "The humans. They're learning too. They've captured 3 of our ships. They're already figuring out how our technology works." The room fell silent. Everyone knew what that meant. The humans weren't just good at fighting. They were good at learning, at adapting, at taking new technology and making it their own. A massive explosion lit up the war room's main screen. Another Imperial fleet had just lost its flagship. The humans had developed a new weapon, a modified version of Imperial jump drives that created explosive tears in space itself. "How?" Pike asked, his voice shaking. "How did they turn our own jump drives into weapons so quickly?" "Because that's what humans do," Wells said quietly. "They take things apart, understand them, and find new ways to use them, usually to fight better." Reed watched as more reports came in. Human ships were now using stolen Imperial cloaking technology combined with their nuclear weapons. They'd learned to detect Imperial shield frequencies and tune their weapons to slip through. Every day brought new human innovations, new ways to kill. "We have to change our strategy," Reed finally admitted. "We can't fight them like we fight other species. We need to." Another alert cut him off. This time, it was different. A human fleet had been spotted heading toward Imperial space. Not running, not hiding, but advancing. Hunting. "They're not just defending anymore," Wells observed. Now they're coming for us. The room erupted in argument. Some wanted to surrender, others to fight harder. A few suggested using banned weapons, planet killers that hadn't been needed for millennia. Reed raised his hand for silence. Send word to all fleets. Fall back to core worlds. Fortify our main systems. We need time to adapt. As the commanders rushed to carry out his orders, Reed looked at the image of Earth floating in the war room's central display. Such a small blue world. Who could have guessed its people would shake the Empire to its foundations? Should have listened to their warning. Wells said softly. Reed couldn't disagree. The Empire was learning a costly lesson. Sometimes the most dangerous enemies aren't the ones with the best technology, but the ones who never learned to stop fighting. Captain Miller stood on the bridge of the Ghost Hunter, Earth's newest warship. Unlike the crude vessels that started the war, this ship combined human ingenuity with stolen Imperial technology. Its black hull absorbed sensor scans, and its modified engines left no heat trail in space. Status report, Miller ordered, watching his crew work at their stations. Each wore the new neural interfaces reverse-engineered from Imperial tech, connecting them directly to their ship's systems. 3 Imperial heavy cruisers ahead, his sensor officer reported. They don't see us yet. Miller smiled. 2 months ago, these Imperial ships would have seemed impossible to defeat. Now they were prey. Begin attack pattern Delta. Show them what humans can do with their toys. The Ghost Hunter moved silently through space, its human-modified cloaking device far better than the Imperial original. Miller had helped design the improvements himself. The Empire used cloaking tech for stealth, but humans had turned it into a weapon. They're scanning the area, the sensor officer whispered. Standard Imperial sweep pattern. Predictable, Miller muttered. That was the Empire's greatest weakness. They never changed their tactics. Launch our new surprise. Small objects ejected from the Ghost Hunter's hull. To Imperial scanners, they looked like space debris. In reality, they were Earth's latest weapons. EMP mines built using captured Imperial power cores. The Imperial ships sailed straight into the trap. Suddenly, alarms blared across the Imperial vessels. Their shields flickered as the EMP mines activated, sending waves of energy through their systems. The mighty Empire warships, each carrying enough firepower to level a continent, drifted helpless in space. Their shields are down, Miller's weapons officer reported. Main systems failing. Miller opened a channel to the Imperial ships. Imperial vessels, this is Captain Miller of Earth's Defense Force. Your ships are disabled. Surrender now. The Imperial Admiral's hologram appeared, his face twisted with rage. Impossible. You primitive. Still calling us primitive. Miller cut him off. We took your technology and made it better in 2 months. What does that make you? Before the Admiral could respond, new alerts sounded. A massive Imperial battleship had just jumped into the system. Miller's tactical officer grinned. Sir, they'd brought exactly what we wanted. Launch boarding teams. Miller ordered. Time to show them another human trick. While the Empire had focused on ship-to-ship combat for millennia, humans remembered older ways of fighting. Small craft shot out from the Ghost Hunter's launch bays, carrying teams of soldiers in powered armor. Another human improvement on stolen Imperial tech. The Imperial battleship's crew never expected warriors to cut through their hull and storm their corridors. They had forgotten about boarding actions, about close-quarter combat. They didn't understand why humans train for hand-to-hand fighting in an age of space warfare. They learned quickly. Within 20 minutes, the Imperial battleship belonged to Earth. Its crew surrendered after watching human soldiers tear through their internal defenses like paper. The ship's advanced technology meant nothing against warriors who had trained their whole lives to fight in every possible way. Miller walked through the captured battleship's bridge, studying its systems. Send word to command. Tell them we have another prize for the engineers to study. His communication officer nodded, then paused. Sir, incoming broadcast. The Empire. They're showing this battle to their whole network. Everyone in Imperial space just watched us take their most advanced battleship. Miller understood the implications. The Empire had tried to show their people their technological superiority. Instead, they had broadcast their own defeat. Back on the Ghost Hunter, Miller watched as human crews began stripping the captured ships of useful technology. Each Imperial vessel they took made Earth's forces stronger. Each battle taught them new ways to fight. "Sir," his second-in-command reported, "Command wants us to test the new jump drive modifications. They say it's time to push deeper into Imperial space." Miller nodded. The Empire had started this war thinking they faced primitives. Now they faced an enemy that took their own weapons and turned them into something new, something deadlier. "Set course for the nearest Imperial colony," he ordered. "Let's show them what else humans can do with their technology." As the Ghost Hunter vanished into jump space, Miller thought about how quickly things had changed. The Empire had ruled the stars for 50,000 years, but they had never faced an enemy like humanity, an enemy that didn't just fight, but learned, adapted, and evolved. The real question was, what would humans do with all this power once they won? Admiral Thompson watched from the bridge of Earth's new flagship, Humanity's Vengeance, as his fleet prepared for the largest attack yet. The ship, built using a captured Imperial dreadnought as its base, represented everything humanity had learned in 6 months of war. "Project Thunderbolt is ready," his chief engineer reported. "All ships are equipped with the new drive system." Thompson nodded. Project Thunderbolt was humanity's greatest achievement yet. They had transformed Imperial jump drives into weapons that could tear holes in space itself. The Empire's own technology would now be their undoing. "Message from Imperial Command," his communication officer announced. They're begging us to stop advancing. "Show me their fleet positions," Thompson ordered. A hologram appeared, showing hundreds of Imperial ships gathered around their core worlds. 6 months ago, such a sight would have terrified any human commander. Now it just looked like a target. "They're bunching up," Thompson observed. "They still think numbers and big ships win wars." He opened a channel to his entire fleet. "All ships, prepare for Operation Endgame." The human fleet jumped into battle formation. Unlike the Empire's neat lines, human ships moved in chaotic patterns that looked random but followed complex battle plans. Each captain knew their role. Each ship was ready to adapt. "Sir," his tactical officer called out, "Imperial planets are broadcasting. Their civilian populations, they're evacuating. They've seen what happened to their outer colonies." Thompson remembered those battles. Humanity had given each world a choice: surrender or fight. Those who surrendered were treated fairly. Those who fought learned why the Empire should have heeded Earth's warning. Multiple Imperial ships breaking formation, sensors reported. They're running away. Before the war, such cowardice would have been unthinkable in the Imperial fleet, but they had learned to fear human ingenuity. They had watched as humanity turned their own technology against them in increasingly devastating ways. "Launch the Thunderbolt attack," Thompson commanded. Across the human fleet, modified jump drives activated, but instead of carrying ships through space, they tore holes in reality itself. The Imperial fleet watched in horror as their own space seemed to turn against them. Ships vanished into the tiers in space. Others were torn apart by gravitational forces. The mighty Imperial formation collapsed into chaos. "Sir," his sensor officer shouted, "we're receiving surrenders. Not just from ships. Entire planets are surrendering." Thompson stood up. "Show me." The hologram shifted, showing dozens of Imperial worlds broadcasting white flags. They had seen enough. They knew what happened to worlds that resisted. "Admiral," his communication officer turned, looking pale. "The Empire's client species, they're revolting. The Outer Rim colonies are declaring independence." This was what they had waited for. The Empire's image of invincibility was shattered. Their subject species had watched humans, supposedly primitives, tear apart the Empire's best fleets. Now they wanted freedom too. Message from Earth Command, the officer continued. Project Thunderbolt was successful beyond expectations. We've broken their main defense line. The path to their capital worlds is open. Thompson looked at the battle display again. The Empire's mighty fleet was in ruins. Some ships still fought, but most were retreating or surrendering. Their perfect formations were scattered. Their advanced technology had failed them. Send word to all Imperial worlds in range, Thompson ordered. They have 1 hour to surrender. After that, we show no mercy. He watched as the messages went out. After centuries of Imperial rule, everything was changing. Humanity had not just defeated the Empire's ships, they had broken its spirit. Sir, his second-in-command asked quietly, what about the worlds that surrender? Thompson smiled. We protect them. Show them why they should have been allies instead of enemies. The bridge crew worked efficiently as more surrenders poured in. The Empire, which had ruled the galaxy for 50,000 years, was falling apart in months. Send the final report to Earth, Thompson ordered. Tell them the war is entering its final phase. The Empire wasn't ready for humans. They never stood a chance. As his words went out, Thompson watched the stars through his viewport. Humanity had gone from defending Earth to conquering the Empire in 6 months. Soon, they would reshape the galaxy. The Empire had wanted to teach humanity its place in the galaxy. Instead, humanity had taught the galaxy about the true meaning of power, not just technology, but the will and ingenuity to use it in ways no one expected. Deep in the Imperial Palace on the capital world, High Commander Reed watched his empire crumble. Emergency signals flashed from 1,000 worlds. Reports of surrenders, rebellions, and chaos filled every screen. Another fleet has gone silent, an officer reported, his voice shaking. The human forces they just erased it, used their space-tier weapons. Nothing left. Reed stared at the tactical display. The neat, organized structure of Imperial power had shattered. Where once stood mighty fleets, now only scattered remnants remained. In the corner of the war room, Dr. Wells worked at her console, recording everything. The ancient species are watching, she announced. The elder races have broken their silence. They're studying how humans fight. The elder races, species so old they had watched the Empire rise. Now they watched it fall. Show me the refugee reports, Reed commanded. New holograms appeared. Millions of Imperial citizens fled toward the core worlds. They had seen videos of human attacks. They knew what happened when humans unleashed their full power. Message from the outer sectors, another officer called out. The mining worlds are declaring independence. They've asked Earth for protection. Reed slumped in his chair. His own people were choosing human protection over Imperial rule. In 8 months, humanity had done what no species had managed in 50,000 years. A new alert flashed. General Wilson of Earth's forces appeared on the main screen. Unlike Imperial officers in their ornate uniforms, he wore simple battle armor. High Commander Reed, Wilson's voice was calm. Your outer defenses are gone. Your fleets are destroyed or scattered. Surrender now and save your remaining worlds from destruction. You're barbarians, Reed spat, primitives who got lucky with stolen technology. Wilson smiled. No, we're humans. We don't just steal technology. We improve it. We don't just fight wars. We change how wars are fought. Look around you, Commander. Your empire of 50,000 years couldn't last 8 months against us. The transmission cut off. Reed turned to his officers. Launch everything we have. Every ship, every weapon. Sir, Dr. Wells interrupted, showing him new data. Look at what the humans have done with our technology. They didn't just copy it. They understood it, changed it, made it deadlier. Each defeat taught them more. On the screens around them, more Imperial worlds raised white flags. The Empire's client species, watching humanity's unstoppable advance, chose to surrender rather than fight. New report, an officer said quietly. Our colonies in the Cygnus sector. They've formed their own government. They say the empire is finished. Reed watched as his perfect empire tore itself apart. Worlds that had obeyed imperial rule for millennia now turned away, seeking new paths. The war room's main screen lit up with a massive energy surge. The humans had launched another attack, using their modified jump drives to tear apart space itself. An entire Imperial defense fleet vanished into the void. They're not just winning, Wells observed. They're changing how war works. Our technology, our tactics, our strategies, all useless against human innovation. Another alert sounded. The human fleet had breached the inner defense line. The core worlds lay exposed. "Sir," his last loyal admiral called, "what are your orders?" Reed looked at the tactical display one final time. The Empire's mighty fleets were gone. Its subject worlds had rebelled. Its people fled in terror from human forces. "Send the signal," he whispered. All forces stand down." As the surrender order went out, Reed watched the Empire's sensors track human ships advancing on the capital. They moved with absolute confidence, knowing nothing could stop them now. "Dr. Wells," he said quietly, "you were right. We should have listened to their warning." Wells nodded, still recording everything. Future generations would need to understand how humanity had done this, how they had taken Imperial technology and turned it into something the Empire's engineers had never imagined. "They'd warned us to run," she said. "Instead, we taught them how to conquer." Outside the palace, the capital's sky filled with ships. But they weren't the elegant Imperial vessels that had ruled space for 50,000 years. These were human warships, transformed by the very technology they had captured. The Empire had wanted to teach humanity its place in the galaxy. Instead, humanity had taught the Empire the true meaning of fear. 1 year after the war began, Earth's Grand Council chamber hosted representatives from 1,000 worlds. Where once Imperial governors had ruled through fear, now human diplomats worked to build something new. Admiral Gray, the man who had first warned the Empire, stood at the main podium. Behind him, the newly formed Human Protection Alliance's symbol showed Earth surrounded by stars, not as a sign of conquest, but of guardianship. "The war is over," Gray announced to the gathered aliens. "The empire that ruled you for 50,000 years is gone. Now you have a choice about your future." In the audience, former High Commander Reed sat with other Imperial leaders. Their ornate uniforms were gone, replaced by simple clothing. They watched as humanity reshaped the galaxy they once ruled. "We don't want to be your new empire," Gray continued. "Earth remembers what it means to be under another's control. Instead, we offer protection and partnership." Dr. Wells, now Earth's chief advisor on alien relations, displayed a hologram of the new galactic map. The Empire's neat borders had vanished, replaced by dozens of independent regions. "Some of you fear us," Gray acknowledged. "You've seen what we can do in war. You watched us take Imperial technology and make it deadlier. You worry we'll become the new tyrants." The alien representatives shifted uncomfortably. They had all seen the videos. Human ships tearing holes in space, human soldiers boarding Imperial vessels, human ingenuity turning the Empire's greatest weapons against them. "But war is not what humans do best," Gray smiled. "Creation, innovation, adaptation. These are our true strengths. Look what we've done in just 1 year." New holograms appeared. The same technology that had torn Imperial ships apart now powered faster, safer jump drives. Weapons that had shattered fleets had been converted to mining tools. Human creativity had transformed instruments of war into tools of peace. "Each world in the Alliance will govern itself," Gray explained. "Earth will provide protection, technology, and aid. In return, we ask only for peace and cooperation." Former Imperial worlds that had surrendered early were already showing the benefits. Their people had learned human innovation, adapted Earth's practical approaches. They were building better ships, better stations, better lives. "You feared us in war," Gray continued. "Now learn from us in peace. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our weapons or our tactics. It's our ability to adapt, to learn, to change. In the audience, Reed leaned toward Wells. We really never had a chance, did we? No, she replied quietly. We thought we were teaching humans their place in the galaxy. Instead, they taught us that peace through tyranny isn't peace at all. Gray pressed a button, and the chamber's ceiling became transparent, showing the stars above. Earth's defense fleet hung in orbit, but they no longer carried weapons of war. They were exploration vessels now, ready to protect and serve. The elder races watch us. Gray gestured to the ancient species representatives. They want to know if humans will repeat the Empire's mistakes. Here is our answer. We choose to guard, not to rule. To protect, not to dominate. The chamber erupted in applause. Even former imperial worlds that had fought against Earth now saw a better way forward. Humanity had proven itself not just in war, but in victory. The Empire ruled through fear for 50,000 years, Gray concluded. We ended that in 8 months, not because we were stronger, but because we understood something they had forgotten. True power comes from lifting others up, not pushing them down. As the assembly ended, ships from 1,000 worlds lifted off from Earth. They carried not just delegates, but hope. Humanity had shocked the galaxy with their skill in war. Now they would amaze it with their dedication to peace. In Earth orbit, Admiral Gray stood on his ship's observation deck with Dr. Wells and Reed. We warned you to run, Gray said to Reed. Yes, the former High Commander nodded. Instead, you taught us to change. Perhaps that was your greatest victory. Below them, Earth turned slowly, its blue oceans and white clouds peaceful against the black of space. Humanity had proven itself the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Now they would prove themselves the most worthy guardians of peace. The new dawn had arrived, and this time it would be shared by all.